The head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Welcome. You're about to enjoy the rantings of Mike D. McCarty and his brother, James Knight. Both film industry veterans and movie aficionados. Film sommeliers, if you will. Fans. They're big fans. Episode 1. This podcast's double feature is Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. And In a Violent Nature. Let's listen in and see what they're up to.
So then you what? You just got like a bunch of hot Indian food stewing in the car for the rest of the way?
I thought about that. I thought, do I leave it in the car because it'll stay warm? Because it's like 105 outside, and I'm like, nah, that's just inviting another problem.
Yeah. Well, how could it get any worse?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
let that cook on the dashboard for a little while.
So when we're done with tonight's podcast, that's what I'm
Oh,
having. I'm gonna turn it off.
are we doing this thing?
Yeah, fuck
Are
it.
we on the internet?
I think we are. We might as well be.
All right, welcome to the head, the tail, and the whole damn thing. We're the Brothers 13. I'm James. That's Mike, who's got the Indian food issues over there. And this is our first, the first of hopefully many episodes to be coming your way. We got a lot of plans for the future, but Mike, why don't you tell them kind of what to expect here?
Well, we are going to primarily be a genre movie review podcast. We're going to focus on a lot of horror, a little bit of fantasy, a little bit of sci-fi, because sometimes those things blend and mix really nicely together. And honestly, we're fans.
For all you people who tuned in for the Indian food podcast that thought you had the right channel there for a
Yeah,
bit.
it is over.
Unfortunately, that's not what it's about.
Welcome to tikkamasala.com. I'm your host, Sag Paneer.
Find the nearest bathroom app on your iPhone.
Yeah. There is one, right? There must be.
Yeah, those guys could probably tell you where to download it.
I thought about using the bathroom when I was there, but I was like, nah, man, I'm not rolling that die.
Yeah, it sounds like they didn't really have it together.
No.
So what do we got coming up today? What's this inaugural episode all about?
The inaugural episode. All right. I thought long and hard about this, and these two films I think go really well together. And I believe you agree with me. We're gonna start with a classic from what the hell year was that? Was it 87?
Oh.
86, 1986. Friday the 13th, part 6. Jason Lives. Spoiler alert, it's in the title.
It might be I'm just looking at Rotten Tomatoes. It might be the highest ranked Friday the 13th on Rotten Tomatoes.
Really?
Well, maybe aside from the first one, but of the sequels, I mean, at a 53%, that's a pretty solid showing.
That's good. I
mean,
mean,
you got
IMDb's got it a 6 out of 10.
Oh. Well, you got to ignore what Gene Siskel said about it, which is the murderous Jason is back in the latest chapter of one of the most offensive series in film history.
Oh.
Unless Burt Reynolds makes 3 more Smokey and the Bandit pictures real quick.
Did it say that?
Yeah, Gene Siskel shitting on it and taking pot shots at Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh my God, that's funny. I was thinking about Smokey and the Bandit this morning, and I don't remember why. I was driving like a jackass, probably.
Well, what are we pairing with Friday 6?
Friday 6, we're pairing with a new film called In a Violent Nature, which is a very interesting take on the slasher genre. And also, I think, a love letter to probably this movie and this series.
Yeah, I watched them as a double feature, and I got to say, they got a lot of good things in common here. But full disclosure, when we were talking about this, when you first offered up these two movies, and you're like, "Yeah, we're gonna watch. Well, let's watch Friday 6." I was like, Friday 6, man, that is a lot of Chris Tucker vehicles. Like Ice Cube and Chris Tucker make it all the way to Friday 6.
Could
I
you
mean,
imagine?
yeah. Yes, I can, actually. Chris Tucker's probably looking to cash a check.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
But and I would have loved to have watched Friday 6, but as it turns out, I loved Friday the 13th Part 6 in its own way too. So, shall
Nice.
we get into it?
Let's hit the trailer.
They thought the nightmare was dead and buried. They were wrong. Jason lives. Happy Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason lives.
Starts August 1st at a Famous Players and other theaters near you. Check local listings.
So, what did you think of Friday 6 right out of the gate?
Wow, it's such a dumb movie. It's so stupid. But you know that, right? You know that going into Friday the 13th Part 6 that it's dumb. And I honestly think like that's almost the strength of the movie is that
Yeah.
you like nobody walks into Friday the 13th Part 6 blindly, you know?
Yeah.
You know you're getting a real turd.
I mean,
but
this
that's
movie breaks the fourth wall, I think, more than once.
it, and it has a sense of humor about itself, you know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that actually I found really enjoyable when I was tuning in. I mean, at one point, there's like a gravedigger character who says something like, "People have a real strange idea of entertainment." He's like
Yeah.
looking almost right at the camera,
Yeah.
and
He's totally breaking the fourth wall.
yeah. It was like it's a fucking gravedigger spinning truth like it's Hamlet or something.
Yeah. This movie absolutely is where this series decided what it was. You know, it's all about Jason, it's all about him back from the dead, it's all about fantastic kills. Nobody cares about the characters. It's like, how cool can we knock these people off? And this was definitely where the series took that turn, cuz prior to this it was that garbage fire uh part 5. What the fuck was the name of part 5?
The final chapter? Is that the final chapter?
No, that's part 4. Part 4's
See?
got young Corey Feldman, who's really rocking it up these days. I don't know if you've been watching.
Yeah, no, I've seen a little bit of that, but
Yeah, it's fantastic.
that's once. Don't say his name 3 times because I think then he just appears.
Ooh, let's keep track.
Yeah, it's not. If you're keeping track at home.
What if Corey Feldman has some
easy.
sort of thing on his name so that whenever his name pops up, he gets notified?
By Google.
Yeah. I don't want to test that out. I don't want to test that out. But I was, when this movie started and so his character from part 4 is sort of the main protagonist in part 6. And it took me a hot second to make that connection, like, oh yeah, he's playing the kid, that hits him. And part 4, I remember as a kid seeing that was exciting because it showed behind Jason's hockey mask for the first time, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that was baller. That was amazing. So this one started, and it took me a second to make that connection. And then I thought, I wonder why they didn't just use. And I'm not going to say his name a third time because I'm scared. No, they just. But he 86. Man, that's the heyday of the Coreys. So he was busy, and he was doing better things than making this schlocky movie.
I wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised if they reached out to him and his paycheck was like more than they wanted to pay.
Of course. Yeah. And he could demand it at that time. You know?
But the guy that plays Tommy, did you recognize him?
I did not.
He's from Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. No, to be honest, this movie I didn't recognize anyone except very briefly. Tony Goldwyn is in it. Tony Goldwyn, who plays like he's the bad guy in Ghost with
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Patrick Swayze,
Uh-huh.
and
Sure, sure. Yeah.
he's like he directs a lot of TV nowadays, and you see him in stuff still every once in a while. He's not stopped working, that guy, but
You
but yeah,
didn't recognize Horseshack?
no, no, man. You know what? My welcome back Cotter knowledge is is lacking, I suppose.
He's the first kill is Horseshack.
Oh, that's Horseshack.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, what a treat for people back in 1986.
Absolutely. Because we were like, oh, 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 oh.
Yeah.
Only 4 people are gonna get that.
He was honestly, he was delightful in that small bit.
He was. Yeah.
But
Come on, Jason gets brought back by lightning. How great is that?
I know. And you got to love the fact that like it's like and one thing about this movie is that it is scored to death. Like there is music and sound effects and creepy noises like literally during every single minute of this movie, which is something that we can talk about with In a Violent Nature, which is like the exact opposite of that.
Absolutely. These are fucking alpha and omega.
but but in Friday 6 they go out and it's like this thunderstorm, and you couldn't have like the more creepy monster-esque soundboard than
Yeah. Yeah.
it's terrible. They're in a thunderstorm, they dig up a grave, and I did note, I was like, there's not been a single raindrop. And they have been here long enough to dig up a whole grave, to dig up Jason.
Yeah.
And of course, it never rains until, you know, lightning strikes and Jason comes back to life. And, you know, definitely a little nod to Lucio Fulci, right? With the maggoty
Oh, yeah,
zombie
yeah,
in the ground there.
absolutely. Yeah. We are going to eat you. I'm actually wearing a zombie t-shirt right now. I know you find that hard to believe.
Yeah. Which one?
That we are going to eat you zombie movie poster.
But of course, it doesn't rain until he, you know, it pour gasoline everywhere, and then he goes to light the match, and then it just like rains buckets, and he can't light the match, and I
I
think
mean,
that's
why do you go on Friday the 13th to dig it up when it's raining and then try and torch it?
yeah. I believe the reason was it's for his therapy. Is
Oh,
what he
that's
said,
right.
something
That's
like that.
right. He does. He says it's for therapy.
Like, you don't have to stick with the same therapist, Tommy. If they tell you some bonkers shit, you can just be like, maybe I'm gonna try someone else
Yeah.
for a while.
Totally. Oh fuck. So good. And that opening, it's got the James Bond opening.
I made a note about that too, like
Yeah.
in the eyeball.
Yeah. So fucking great.
And then, of course, Jason, you know, comes back to life. He gets his first kill, and Tommy goes screaming into town. And let me tell you, he goes directly to the police station, and that cop was ready to rock and roll, wasn't he?
Yeah. Totally.
He busts through the door, and the cop immediately jumps up and pulls his gun on him.
I mean, Tommy is crazy.
Oh, sure, but like the cop, he pulled his gun on him like like he caught him like looking through some old porn mags or something. Just like he was so surprised, he just pulls his 38.
Yeah.
Our sheriff, who was like a poor man's Howard Hessman there, like
Oh hell yeah.
or
Hell yeah.
a low grade Johnny Fever, if you will.
I see what you did there.
Ah. But yeah, they instantly, you know, they got to make you hate the cops and the authority figures, which is, again, it's the movie you're watching. I think that's, you know, early on, I locked in to how dumb it was, and that just let me enjoy it
Absolutely.
so much more. That's
It
really what
is.
I want.
This is a movie to watch with friends for sure. Or you go with a bunch of people to the movie theater back in 1986, and you're in high school, and you've got fucking high top white Adidas with red stripes, and
Yeah.
you're wearing an Iron Maiden T-shirt. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what this movie's about.
And you're 14 and really hoping you see some like 80s boobs in it
Yeah,
because it's Friday the 13th.
there's barely any boobs in this movie.
I know. As Friday the 13th movies go, it was like, huh. Of course, there is the obligatory like, here's the counselors having sex scene, and well, they got to get punished for that, but
Yeah,
got to stay true to the theme.
we have to steer clear of premarital sex, drugs, and alcohol.
Yes,
That's what these movies teach us.
that's right. And boy, did it not work. Too.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Point taken.
I also, of course, they're not gonna shoot a movie like this like on location anywhere. It's a sound stage and everything, but uh, it's not just a thunderstorm, but it was like every there was like no there was uh no attention paid to the fact that they're like in the woods. Like they're always leaving the windows of the cabin open or the
Yeah.
door to the Winnebago, or it's like y- there's got to be mosquitoes and bugs, and also like if you've camped even once in your life,
Mhm.
you got to shut that, but not at Camp Blood. They just
No one's worried about bears.
yeah, bears, mosquitoes, or the like mass murders that keep happening there. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Why do you keep opening a camp in an area like that?
well, yeah. What parent would send their kid there? Which also I had to laugh at, like when the kids do arrive at the camp, it's literally like a bus. It opens up. The bus driver kind of just hurries out a bunch of kids and they just give them to a bunch of random teenagers. There's no check-in process.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no nothing. And
Was
I
it at
thought,
night too, or am I just fantasizing it was at
no, I
night?
think they deliver them during the day.
Okay.
But then, the 80s were a different time.
It was.
We gave our kids a little bit of a longer leash back then. Who's this stranger? Should we check their credentials? Are you qualified to do this? Nah.
I mean, honestly, if I had a child, I would let them stay at Camp Blood. Sure. You got to toughen them up.
Oh, the other thing I noticed that I legit found this interesting because I don't know if the other Friday the 13th movies did this, but they use that that music again because the whole thing is just underscored. They use that old like Gregorian chant that they use in The Shining too. Do you know what I'm talking about? That
Yeah.
that's like bum, 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 bum,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
whole theme. They use that throughout this movie. Did they use that in any of the other Friday the 13th movies? Because it's for sure in The Shining. It's like a repeated theme, and I was like, "Oh, you're just kind of ripping off from the
Yeah.
masters."
I can't remember if it's in any others. I mean, you always got the ch,
Sure.
which they say is ki ma ma ma, like killer mommy.
What?
I've
What?
never ever
Who
heard
said
that
that?
in it. That's
Who
what
said
that's
that?
what experts say.
No.
Yeah, I
Can we?
know. It's a ch, but they swear it's ki. I don't know. We'll let people write in and tell us that we're wrong.
Yeah. Well, if sure, go ahead and prove it. Actually, that's what I'd like to say. If you can prove that it's that. Um, but no, I don't hear that. But it's an iconic sound. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Whatever
absolutely.
it is, it's
Harry
like,
Manfredini.
yeah, that's the guy that did the score for
Yeah, it sounds like a 70s magician, doesn't it?
it.
You
Yeah,
just imagine him to have a big giant handlebar mustache.
Harry Manfredini.
Yeah.
You mean Henry Mancini? No,
No,
we
no, no.
don't. We don't mean that. Manfredini. It does. He sounds like a magician.
He
Absolutely.
does.
Like he's gonna cut a woman in half.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's going to cut a woman in half at some point.
Sure. Can we talk about some of those kills? Because some of
Yeah,
them
what's
are
your
pretty
favorite?
good. So, I guess the one I was most surprised by was when the sheriff died. Because they don't show it too much, but he gets like broken in half.
Yeah. Yeah. It's similar to the best kill in another movie that we're going to talk about.
It is very much, yeah. Uh, I
It's like
made
the
that connection.
Walmart version of that.
But you know, I also noticed a lot of times in Friday 6 that they don't always show it. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes they sort of they plunge the knife through the head, but they cut away before they actually do the gag. You know, sometimes he punches through somebody and you see that, but a lot of times they sort of cut away at certain moments, which ain't how they do it nowadays. I don't think they're
Yeah,
really keen to show you
exactly.
everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And then
What else?
I was
Go
just
ahead.
thinking, our boy does all that. He's like researching. At one point, he's got all those books. And I always love in any of these movies when they pull out the books to see like, oh, what kind of titles we got here. And he pulls out that book on the occult. And then their plan is like, let's chain him to a rock and put him in the bottom of the lake. It was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Pretty
He's got to be
simple solution.
back where he came from. It's some kind of line like that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah. They tell all the kids, like, just stay in the cabin. It's like, oh, get those fucking kids out of there.
Yeah, they just kind of nobody's watching them.
Oh, yeah, just hide under your beds. Like, oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Fuck it. So good.
But yeah, ultimately, I mean, I did enjoy watching that movie just because it's terrible. It's a terrible movie, but it knows what it is and it's having fun. And like you said, they break the fourth wall. And you know, you're there to see the kills. You're you're there to see
Yeah.
all the silly little tropes of Friday the 13th play out. And I think that as far as those movies go, it does it pretty well. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's good, but it's enjoyable.
Totally. I 100% agree. I was going to mention one other thing that that I sort of like bumped on a little bit when I saw it, and I was like, yeah, that doesn't fly today. It was they're super chill about pointing guns at people, right? Like the sheriff points a shotgun at his own daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can tell 86 they're really feeling that Terminator laser sight vibe. That's just like the
Totally,
coolest
totally.
thing ever, right? So
Yeah.
the deputy dipshit or whatever, he's got a laser sight on his gun and he's pointing it at him from like 3 feet away.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Fucking
you
so
sure
good.
you need that laser sight, dingus?
Doesn't the sheriff's daughter point a gun at her father too, or at the deputy or something as well?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. When she breaks Tommy out of jail, she's got the
Yeah.
gun and she's like, "Give me your keys," and then he does. But it's like you really gonna kill this deputy to
Yeah.
get this guy you just met today, who you
Who
first
might be
saw
crazy.
through the bars of the jail cell?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck it.
yeah. And there was that awkward chase where they're in her, let's face it, her bitchin' Camaro. That
Oh, that is totally a bitchin' Camaro.
77. Yeah. And they say orange in the movie, but it looked, I don't know, it looked red
It
to
looks
me.
red.
Yeah. But then
Yeah.
she's like, "Get down in my lap." And she like forces him down into her lap during the chase scene. And there's a
Yeah.
bunch of like weird, just sort of like shots of his POV staring at her crotch.
Yeah.
And he's all like, if you say so. It just comes across as really odd.
Yeah, totally.
And if they just showed it once, that'd be something. But they do it like 3 times. I'm like,
Right.
okay, I got it, dude. You're just like
Yeah.
her jeans.
Oh, hell yeah. So, all in all, out of 10, like, what do if we call it 10, what? What do we call it? 10 machetes? How many machetes out of 10 would you give it?
Oh, 10 machetes. How many machetes? I'm gonna go with a solid 7 on this one.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to go like 6.5.
yeah. Again, it's not a good movie. It
No.
might be a terrible movie, but if you are watching it, you know what you're in for, and in that way, it delivers. If you just stumble across this and you're not a fan, this would be like a smoking pile of shit. But
Yeah,
if you're a fan of the genre, yeah, I wouldn't change the channel on a Sunday. It's fun.
totally. Totally. All right. So, I think this is going to take us to our main feature tonight.
Yeah. Do we need to take a break to the lobby?
Yeah. Let's go grab some popcorn.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Oh, we're back from the lobby. Mike, when I was in there, I noticed a old styrofoam container of cold sag paneer. Was that you by any chance?
I have no idea what you're talking. I was
Just
in the bathroom.
Yeah, of course you were. So we're here to talk about In a Violent Nature, a movie that came out.
I was just in the bathroom. Yes.
In a Violent Nature, written and directed by Chris Nash. This movie just came out. I think it's the initial offering from Shudder Films. Is that right, Mike? Does that sound?
Yeah, as far as them releasing it theatrically. I mean, Shudder's been buying up shit for a while and making it, Shudder exclusive. But I think this is the first one they actually released theatrically.
Well, what did you think?
Let's see. My first thought when I saw the trailer was, "Oh, Merry Christmas."
Is it what you want?
It is absolutely what you want. At least that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, this looks cool. I like slasher movies. I like Friday the 13th. This is obviously a love letter to somebody who likes that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I am 100% on board, ready to go. And when they were like, and this is not a spoiler, this is the spoiler free portion of the review. We'll have a little breakdown or a little moment before we get into really in-depth talking, but it's not a spoiler, I think, to say this movie follows the POV of the character.
Yeah, and that was the first thing that I heard about it too. And so when I was first hearing that, I thought it was going to be first person, like they did that action movie a few years ago. Was that Hard for Henry or something like that?
Yeah.
That was all shot in first person, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do that with this movie, but I was, I'm willing to play ball.
Yeah.
But no, it's more third person, right? It's just
It
kind of
is. It's
directly
more video game, like
100%. Like I play a
like the
lot.
fucking Friday the 13th video game.
Yeah, I play a lot of video games, as I know you do, and I couldn't help but making that sort of parallel as I was watching this movie.
Totally.
And essentially came down to one of my issues was that like a video game, after a while, I like to take in the surroundings, but then I just want to find the sprint button, the run button.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is no run button in this movie. This
There's-
is a slow moving picture.
That should be one of the taglines. There is no run button.
Not at all. I mean, I did not hate this movie. I think there's a lot to commend about it, but I will tell you, I had no problem pausing this movie as I was watching it.
Uh-huh.
It never drew me in so much that I was like on the edge of my seat. Like, I had it going, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a drink. I'll just pause this for a bit. Or, oh, is that the mail? I'll pause this for a little bit. Like, oh, I'm gonna go make some lunch. Pause this for a little bit. Like,
Sure.
I really kept getting up numerous times, but it's just because it really to its detriment. I mean, it's odd. It's what makes it interesting, and also I think ultimately stopped me from enjoying it the most was it's just so slow.
I learned something the other day, and that is that there is something called slow cinema. And it's movies like this and movies like Skinamarink, which I haven't seen, but I saw the trailer for Skinamarink and went, "Oh man, that looks so fucking cool. That looks so creepy and scary." And a friend of mine saw it and he went, "No, don't even attempt." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, forget about it." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either, but that's a pretty divisive film. That's like one of those, I've either heard people who love it or people who just absolutely couldn't stand it. And you know what? The thing is, I watch a lot of movies. I'm not adverse to a slower paced film, but it's the slow movement, the long shots. It's a lot of long shots, a lot of, and just in the filmmaking itself, I don't think there's a single close up until like 45 minutes into this movie.
Yeah.
There might be a
Yeah.
couple close ups of the killer's hands,
Mhm.
but that camera stays kind of distant. It takes forever. And like I was saying about Friday the 13th, part 6, which is scored absolutely to death. There's always some sort of music or sound underneath.
Yeah.
This movie has no music.
How long did it take before you noticed that? Because it took me about 20 minutes before I went, wait a minute. This is just the sounds of the woods and no music at all.
I picked up on it pretty quickly because I'm a fan of movie scores and like horror and sci-fi and fantasy scores in general. So I always kind of got my ear out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't typically hear the flies buzzing and the leaves crunching and the birds calling as much as you do in this movie, which was another odd thing. It's not points against it, but most of the time you watch a like Killer in the Woods movie, and if it's effective, then you think, well, the last thing I want to do right now is go into the woods because that would freak me out. But
Yeah.
I found myself in this movie being like, where are they? It's really pretty there. I like watched the credits at the end. I was like, oh, in Ontario, no kidding. I was like, I'd
Yeah.
like to go there, I think, which is the
Totally.
opposite feeling that
Yeah.
most of those movies give you.
100%.
You don't
In
watch
fact-
Evil Dead and you're like, oh, I want to get a cabin in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, this was like, yeah, ooh, that looks nice. That's a decent looking lake. There's that one overlook where the girl's doing yoga. I'm like,
Mhm.
that looks nice.
Yeah. It's beautifully shot. There are a lot
It
of very
is.
interesting camera angles. At times, I think it drags it down. Like sometimes sometimes the best cinematography is stuff that you don't necessarily notice, and just like in theater, sometimes the best lighting design is doesn't call attention to itself unless it's something
Sure.
fantastic like deliberately long takes like in Alfonso Cuarón's Children of Men or the beginning of the beginning of Boogie Nights, those long tracking shots that are
Sure.
and Goodfellas, right, that opening shot where you're like, wow, that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
This there's so much of that in this movie that sometimes I found it, for me, it called attention to itself more than actually what was going on in the movie. It'd be like, why are they using this camera right now? Like, why am I seeing these people's feet when they're having a conversation above me? Like, it wasn't necessarily like the killer's POV or anything. It was just where the
Yeah.
camera was.
Yeah.
And I found that happening quite a bit throughout this.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I do kind of like I've seen it twice. Okay. I'll be
Mm.
honest. The first time I watched it, I found myself enthralled and I was sitting there. I was like, wow, this is really neat. What a cool idea. And I didn't mind the really long shots, like the long shot of the lake where you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for
Mm-hmm.
something to happen. I'm like, this totally reminds me of Exorcist 3, which
Oh,
is that long, you know what I'm talking about,
of
right?
course. The
Yeah,
hallway and yeah.
absolutely. And that is a masterful shot as far as a horror film goes, in my mind.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think that this movie definitely tried to do stuff like that, especially at the lake. I was like, okay, this is cool. Um, and there were moments where like the kill, like the first kill, you're like, "Hmm," and then they kind of progressively get better.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll save for the spoilers. I'll save this for the spoilers because I don't want to ruin too much. But I will say that overall, I definitely enjoyed it and liked it and was happy that somebody made a movie like this. And I know they went through hell trying to get it done, and
Oh,
they even
yeah.
shot the movie basically twice. And like 70% of this movie had to be reshot.
Oh, really?
That is a lot.
What? You mean just because of the camera angles and stuff? Or
No,
what, did something
because
happen?
something happened.
Oh.
The guy that played the killer ended up getting sick and had to be replaced.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I believe if you look it up online, you'll find stories about it, and I'm sure the people listening, if they're interested, they can look it up. The director's been very forward talking about it, saying that he feels at least 70% of the movie was reshot,
Oh, man.
and it's
Oh,
because
awful.
they got to a certain point and then had to recast that dude, but couldn't find somebody that was perfect because if you think about it, that camera is behind him the entire time. So his gait is important. His
Mm-hmm.
shoulders are important. And the way he stands or moves, super fucking important. And if you replace that guy for like this scene or that scene, suddenly it's just not going to play well, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna feel off.
You do get very familiar with that guy's stride. Very
Totally.
familiar.
And the stride works. I mean, there was only some times where I was like, okay, he's moving too fast. Or he's a little too smart for what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I'm glad I saw it. Second playthrough, yeah, I'm in a pausing nature for sure. Or, you know, I don't mind getting up, going to the bathroom, or getting up, going and getting a glass of water and coming back because I can hear the birds still going in the background and the crunching of the feet. And I know he's still making his way towards somebody. And I've got like another 4 minutes before I got to be in there to see it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I there's no doubt that it was made with a lot of care and a lot of intention. If we're comparing these two movies that have a lot in common just in terms of,
Mhm.
their content, um, there's no doubt that this one is crafted with more of an eye for detail. There's a lot of attention being paid to how it looks, how it sounds. Um, you know, every you can tell that there's so much more intention behind it rather than Friday 6, which was like, we're gonna make this, schlocky movie.
Yeah.
Everybody buckle up.
We're winking at the screen continually, and this one is like slow, plotting, violent. Here we go. This is what you've always wanted. You've always wondered what Jason does in between kills. He just kind of wanders about.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you're kind of wondering in those Friday movies, like, how does he get everywhere? How did he get over there? And this
Yeah.
movie does show you, like, oh, he just takes his time and he strolls right over there.
Yeah. He's got fantastic hearing too, because he could
Yeah.
pick up conversations everywhere. What did
Oh,
you think of the fact that I mean, it's exposition dialogue out the ass from beginning to end, but how else would they fucking do it, right?
yeah. Yeah, no, there were a number of challenges with putting the movie together, and I thought like I said, it was like sensitive filmmaking in a lot of ways. They really put a lot of thought behind everything, and you can tell. Um, and if you're a fan of this particular kind of horror, the slasher, the stalker, kind of thing, uh, and you're a fan of spoiler free, some really creative kills. There's things that you can enjoy about this movie. But
Absolutely.
but ultimately, for me, I gotta say, much to my surprise, I liked Friday the 6th better than this movie.
Nice, nice.
It's
I would
it's
say Friday 6 is more fun for sure.
oh, that's it. That's it. It's more. I think 100% more fun than this. And I don't mean to take anything away from violent nature, because like I said, I can tell that everything was really considered and a lot of times very artful.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
I have no doubt that this Chris Nash guy has probably a good career ahead of him and probably make some other good films and stuff. But on the whole, I don't think that his like artistic vision was almost too much for this movie, in my opinion. You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm.
It took precedence. The story wasn't strong enough to hold what this guy was really trying to do here.
Yeah,
Um,
we can get into the story in the spoiler part, but no, I agree. I do think I liked it more than you. Um,
well, how
and
many
I don't know.
machetes? How many machetes?
Oh, let's wait. Let's machete later,
Oh, okay.
and we'll call it hooks. Maybe it's hooks.
Oh, hooks. Be careful.
Yeah,
You, you don't want to
yeah.
drift into spoiler territory.
No, I'm not drifting into the spoiler territory. Is there any? Oh, wait. Before we get into spoiler territory, what did you think of the aspect ratio? Because to me, they shot it in 4:3, right? Which means
Mm-hmm.
they boxed the edges of the camera, and they got that full frame instead of the 35 wide look, and or the 16:9 wide. And to me, that was like, and I thought this, and then found out later that it was true. They were sort of mimicking the fact that when we grew up, we saw all these movies on TV,
Oh,
and that's
how
the aspect
interesting.
ratio they wanted to show.
Wow. That's such an interesting decision for a movie that seems like it has, such an artistic hand behind it. I mean, it's very intentional to do it that way, but
Yeah.
um that I got to say that I did not notice that. Frankly, it surprises me um that it would try to strike that sort of nostalgic nerve like that. Um
Yeah.
but no, I think I didn't notice the aspect ratio. I did think it was a beautiful movie. You
Yeah.
know?
No, it's pretty for sure. And it's kind of calming. Like if you're sitting there and you're watching it, it is a little calming until you get to certain moments. And
Yeah,
then
well,
it's
that's
not so
that's
calm.
what I mean. Like, I was watching it and I was like, "Wow, I'd like to go to this place." And how many
Yeah.
times you watch a horror movie and you're like, "Oh, I would like to get a house in Amityville." Like, that
Yeah.
does seem like a great neighborhood. Like, that doesn't
Totally.
happen.
Yeah. Fantastic. Should we get to the spoilers then?
Yeah, let's do it. Hit that button.
All right, we'll be right back.
Show starts in 1 minute.
Okay, we are back, and it's time to talk about, time to break it down into all the fun little bits. Again, if you haven't seen this movie and you don't want it ruined, maybe go watch it and save this part for later.
You have
You
been
have
warned.
been warned. I was going to say the same fucking thing.
Hey, all right. It's almost like
It's
we
like,
grew up together.
I was just going to say it's like we're brothers. How stupid.
All
Okay.
right.
The first thing I wrote down in my notes is this a real place? I want to go there.
No shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is Northern Ontario.
Uh-huh.
And I think I noticed at the end of the film there was Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan got a little bit of a thank you at
Well,
the end of it as well.
yeah,
So,
that is where they reshot everything, was Sault Ste. Marie.
oh, no shit. That's
Yeah,
very,
apparently when they shot the film first, it was in Ontario. And I read something last night too, and I don't know how much of this to believe. It said there's out of the original footage, only 5 seconds of it is actually in the movie.
what?
Yeah, and I'm like, no way. And they said that they had already spent their budget basically, or so much of their budget,
Uh,
and then they had to like redo everything, and they realized they didn't like the look of where they were, and they wanted to sort of change it up. And when they went to this new place, they were like, "Ooh, we like this better." And then they started reshooting everything, and with the different actor playing the killer. And yeah, so it just got into a thing. And I guess they had a different ending planned. I mean, we'll get to the end in a bit, but they had a different ending plan too that was much different from what actually happened.
wow.
Yeah. And I
Oh,
keep wondering, what would this movie have been had they not had to redo it or reshoot it because the guy playing Johnny, it is Johnny, right?
it is Johnny. Yep.
Uh, got sick, and I don't know what part of him got sick or how he got sick or what that is. I don't know. I don't want to make some shit up, but he had to be recast, and that was obviously a problem for the filmmakers. Um, but whoever they cast that played this, and I guess if I'm looking on IMDb, I can tell you who plays Johnny. Rye Barrett. Rye Barrett knows how to walk. He knows how to get somewhere.
He takes his time.
He takes his time. He looks good doing it too. I thought the suit was cool. I mean, yeah, something about this podcast, we're going to talk about makeup effects. We're going to talk about, how they did
Mhm.
that and stuff like that. And before I get into my favorite kill, I will say that as this opened up, I'm like, ooh, I fucking love this. I love the look of his hands, and we're walking behind him with this is very Jason, like 100%. I'm like, oh, this is
Mhm.
very much like part 6, which is another reason why these movies really pair well together. And
Yeah.
that first kill, what that guy's hat say? Number one motherfucker.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And the little locket or pendant that he had said that on the back of it as well.
Did it really?
Yeah, did you watched it twice? You didn't notice that
I
little
didn't
detail?
notice. I was probably looking at my computer.
Yeah.
That is fucking great. Number one motherfucker. That should be our email.
And
Number one
that's
motherfucker at gmail.com.
and that's that was a pretty tame kill, that first one.
Yeah,
Um,
disappointing if I'm being honest. Yeah.
well, you wait so long for it. You
Yeah.
know, you've been following this guy for like half an hour. The note I wrote was "in a world without running," because I was like, dude, give me a cut or something. And they did. It's not one long continuous take, but it cuts to like another long take of him going
Yeah.
after that guy. And
But
then,
those around the cabin are cool, as like the camera's going this way, the actor's coming around, we're going inside the house. First of all, that
yeah.
dude, number one motherfucker, he lives in a shithole.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
that place is fucked up.
Yeah.
Going in, I thought, is this a crime scene? Because there's like shit all over the floor, not poop, but like, cans all over the floor and dirty dishes piled up. And the curtain is even knocked off of its rod.
In
It's
the
like
dish.
half in the sink.
Yeah. There are certain things that disturb me in horror movies from time to time that have nothing to do with the violence or the,
Yeah.
the terror or the tension. And I have to say that one got me. I was like, get the curtain out of the dirty sink.
Yeah. What is wrong with number one motherfucker? And he's it opens, or we hear Johnny here, that the guy that's going to be killed later, what's his name,
The ranger.
the ranger's bitching at him about leaving traps out,
Yeah.
out there in the woods. Some kid's gonna step in it, what are you gonna do then? Don't make me come back here. And then that guy's like, get out of here. And he goes back and that's where Johnny and him are doing the little do-si-do around the house.
Mhm.
And Johnny goes in and sees what a fucking shithole it is. And then, we didn't even talk about the locket. That's a weird thing to like have be what motivates or keeps the killer at bay. The fucking locket. The movie opens on a goddamn locket sticking over a pipe, and these guys like, oh, look at it. Looks like it might be gold.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's weird, but also remember I watched this on the same day as Friday 6, where like the maggoty corpse of Jason gets revived with a lightning bolt.
It's true.
So by the time the locket, I was like, sure, okay, this is some sort of ghost possession thing. I'll ride this.
Yeah. Okay. You're good. Point well taken. Point well taken. I was looking for the reality of it.
But I mean, this is skipping ahead in the movie. They do say at one point, because she's got the locket. The girl's got the locket because that dickhead Troy took it. And then he gave it to her. I know, Troy. If your name is Troy in a movie, you are guaranteed to be a dick. Like as an actor, if I get like an audition and my name is Troy, boy, I just know I gotta be the biggest dickhead that I can. Muster up the most arrogance. Like, has there ever been anyone named Troy that was actually like a stand-up dude?
Dude, there's another guy named Colt.
You're right. Troy and Colt. Where the fuck do these people come from? Well, Sault Ste. Marie, I guess we established.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Troy and Colt are they're playing like on the third line for the Sault Ste. Marie whatever they're quick, give me a hockey team.
The Warblers? How about
the Warblers?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Troy and Colt's dads really liked the Fall Guy TV show when they were like huge Lee Majors fans.
Colt Seavers. Yeah.
But no, the girls got the locket, and at one point they're like, I gotta give him back this locket, and they're like, no, he's awake now. The locket won't do anything.
I mean, try it.
Yeah, absolutely. In the end, near the end, she's still got it on. I thought, you still got that fucking locket on?
Yeah.
And she gets rid of it. And guess what? She doesn't die. She gets away. I was like, well, maybe you should have given them fucking locket away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. Let's back up a minute, though.
Oh yeah.
Let's go back to okay, after the bloody hand grabs the locket and realizes it's not the locket. This is in number one motherfucker's place. Then we go to note I had is the Walkman kid death,
Oh yeah.
which I thought was pretty fucking cool. Okay,
That's
so
where we
we've got
start rocking and rolling
oh,
in this
absolutely.
movie.
But we take us to the story. Let's hear the story of the massacre of this area. And it's like, oh, 30 years ago this happened, and then 10 years later this happened. And then I'm realizing, okay, so we've got a lot of history. This goes way back to a time before. And they tell the story about Johnny being a child and going up into or getting drawn out. They say that there are toys in the top of the fireman's tower.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, why? Why are they trying to draw Johnny out? Like what
Well,
what was the point of that? They
because
mentioned he's a slow kid.
Sure, which is its own bit of maybe unintentional irony because they're beating around the bush there because the guy he wants to say something else and they're like, no, say the word, and
Yeah.
he's like he's slow and they're like that's not so he doesn't use the preferred nomenclature, right? And he's like
Yeah.
he's mentally handicapped. There's
Yeah.
another word for it, but I'm listening to that conversation. I was like, no, slow. Slow, you got it, man. That's exactly what this dude is.
Yeah.
He's
He
slow
is
as
slow,
hell.
getting around everywhere. Absolutely.
But they said that so Johnny's dad was he owned the general store and he was price gouging the loggers. And they didn't like his dad, so that's why they
Why the fuck
lured
is he a
Johnny
slow
out
kid? Yeah.
to the fireman's tower and then he fell and broke his neck.
To be honest, this sounds a little rapey, right? They're trying to lure the slow kid out to some secluded place by offering him toys. Oh, there's some toys up there. I mean, that sounds super fucking dodgy. That's like free van or free candy in my van, right? Like totally. Like that's the vibe they're fucking portraying for these fucking loggers. Some
Hey,
creepy dudes that are out in the woods that are just big logging dudes and they're lonely and they're drawing Johnny out.
well, it that I thought it was interesting too. I wasn't sure of the timeline because obviously Johnny's our killer and he's a big boy,
Yeah.
right? When
Not
they
a
told
young
this
boy.
when they told the story, it makes it sound like he's a little kid. Um so I was like, "Oh, I did have to suss it out." I was like, did he get bigger after he was killed or no, they just lured I mean, I'm assuming he was bigger and older. He was just mentally handicapped, right? And they lured him out there. But I'm like, man, you loggers, you're playing with fire because this dude is a monster. He
Yeah.
is
Absolutely.
giant. Why would you even want to tangle with this kid? You
Yeah.
know?
It's like the Goonies. He's fucking sloth.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
100%.
Like I'm waiting for Johnny to go, "Hey you guys."
Yeah.
And he doesn't. Instead, he just slowly walks somewhere. Unless he's got some kind of plan, which again, there were a couple of times where I'm like, "No, I don't buy it."
And
Like the car
also,
horn. That was
yeah,
like, come on.
so uh, they say, he's a slow kid, but he was apparently in the gifted and talented class in elementary school because he's actually quite creative in
He's
this
very
movie.
creative.
And
He
some
knows
of
how to run
those,
a log splitter.
and that to me, if we want to talk about that now, that was like the metaphor for the whole movie for me, was that log splitter scene.
Yeah.
Because I found it hilarious that that Johnny gives like proof of concept first. He snaps the guy's spine. He like crushes the guy's spine so he's
Yeah.
paralyzed. He
Yeah.
drags him into the shed with the
Yeah.
log
Yeah.
splitter going.
Yeah.
And the first thing he does is split a log.
Log. Yeah, totally. It's like, here you go. This is what's gonna happen to you next. And to be honest, they fucking missed the mark with this kill. And maybe it was a money thing. Maybe they planned it differently. The dude's paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
realize we've jumped all the way to the end to kill, or one of them. The dude is paralyzed, and how would you kill somebody on a log splitter if they're paralyzed?
Oh, come on, right down the middle, man. You
Right down
gotta
the middle.
yeah.
Absolutely. You're gonna bisect them from the balls to the fucking skull.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like, let's do the hand, and then let's do the head.
Yeah.
And the weird thing about this particular kill, that makes it even more fucked up, in my opinion, is this is the first part or the first time in the movie where the camera is locked off like a fucking camera in the room. Like it's catching a crime, right?
Yeah.
Somebody comes in, he turns on the log splitter, he splits a log, you've got the body of the dude laying down there, then lay his arm across, split, cut the hand off. No cuts at all.
Mhm.
And then put the guy up there, lay the head across, and take his head off. Now, I guess when I say no cuts, it's not true because they show a close up of the hand triggering the mechanism and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And obviously that's where they go from real guy to dummy. Nice blood gag, by the way, taking the hand off, uh, and having that be a free flowing thing onto the ground, and then taking the head off.
But
Good blood gag. Everything's plumbed, ready to go, and they're looks like they're actually cutting it off with the log splitter. Very well done. I commend the guys that worked on this movie. And actually, a friend of mine worked on this movie, and he worked on when I messaged him and said, "Hey, fucking, I just saw this movie. I saw your name," and he goes, "Oh yeah, I only worked on Yoga Girl," and I'm like, "Dude, that
oh,
is the best,
yeah. Yeah. Full marks. Full marks on
fucking
that one.
Yoga Girl."
Before we get
Oh
to Yoga Girl,
yeah,
because we're gonna spend a minute on that, I do wanna say, just reiterate, that log splitter was like the metaphor for the whole movie for me, just because I was like, "Well, this is interestingly shot. It's creative." Like, "Oh,
yeah,
here's a log splitter." But ultimately, yeah, he didn't bisect him down the middle. So it was kinda unsatisfying. At first, I thought when he took off his hand, I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna take off his feet next, and then his other hand." I thought he was gonna stack the guy like lumber. And I was like,
oh, I
"Well."
mean, that's not bad,
Yeah,
right?
and if it had been a long take, like 4 minutes of him just, like, slowly splitting this paralyzed guy, because I was like, "He's not screaming because he can't feel anything and he can't move." I was
Yeah,
like, but again, it just fell a little bit short of its promise, and I felt that way about a lot of the movie, but I
mhm.
didn't feel that way about Yoga, so go
Yoga Girl
ahead.
was fantastic, but right
Oh,
before Yoga Girl, honestly, I like the lake bit. I mentioned it pre-spoiler.
mhm,
He walks up to the lake. He sees the two girls kind of flirting with each other, and it's obvious they're maybe going to have a thing going on, or maybe they've been having a thing brew. And the one girl like, okay, I'm going to go stretch. You can stretch me out later. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
yeah,
Which is
God,
a good,
huh,
for when she gets killed.
yeah,
But the other girl's like, okay, I'm gonna go swimming, like Chrissy and Jaws, right? And she's out there kind of floating around, dog paddling, and he is just been watching from the shoreline the entire time, camera hovering
mhm,
behind him, and then slowly makes his way into the lake. And I'm like, oh fuck yes, they're gonna show him walking on the lake bottom, and they didn't.
yeah,
And I found out later as I was researching the shit that that was one of the plans that didn't work out. And also they planned on like having the camera still in the third person hover across the water
wow,
and make its way slowly all the way across the water to where she was and then have her get pulled under. And I thought, well, that would have been fucking cool too. But
yeah,
apparently they just ran into so many problems. And I guess I was talking to another friend of mine that said he'd talked to somebody and he had heard that they had set up to do something and it didn't work out, and they ended up not doing it, changing it to what this was. But I kind of like the fact that the camera doesn't move. It stays there for like a minute and you'd know he's underwater walking the entire time to get there. But then I'm thinking, the fucking guy in the suit just walked in the water. What's he doing? Is he just hanging out underwater waiting for the safety diver to let him go? Like, does he have a rebreather on or a scuba gear at this moment? He's just standing there waiting for the fucking scene to finish. But there must have been some kind of digital cut in there. But then the girl gets dragged under, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's like Jaws. And then she's under for a pretty decent amount of time, and then pops up with a, and then gets dragged under again. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And there's a little bit of bang and holler, and down you go. And then Johnny slowly makes his way out of the lake towards Yoga Girl. So I thought prior to Yoga Girl, this was a fun kill, even though we really didn't see anything. What do you think?
I feel the same way. I mean, you mentioned Exorcist 3 earlier with that hallway, which is, in my
Yeah.
mind, that's just an iconic, terrifying moment.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, this makes you wait, and it definitely, you feel that sense of like, okay, is something going to happen, and when's it going to happen? Again, there's no sound, like, I mean, I want to say there's no sound design. That's not true.
There's
Certainly,
no score. Yeah.
well, there's no score, but there's no anything. Like there's no stingers or any any time there's a jump scare or anything in any of these movies. You get a little or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's none of that in this either, and those sound effects help out a lot. So I watched that shot and I'm like, okay, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. But then when she went down, I was like, oh, there it is. I didn't necessarily feel surprised or anything by it. I was just waiting for it.
No, I mean, you know it's coming 100%.
Sure.
It's like, when is it going to happen? Which is what reminded me of Exorcist 3. Like, something's about to happen. It's waiting. It's waiting. It's waiting. It's waiting. Now Exorcist 3 does it 100 times better,
Sure.
but I
Well,
liked
Also,
this too.
also, Exorcist 3 does put sounds in there, and it also you're not waiting for the entire movie up to that point like
Yeah.
you are within a violent nature.
Yeah.
So much of it is just about like, here we go, walking slowly through, waiting. But I mean, I do appreciate the difference, that not every kill has to be some sort of, extreme gag or anything like that to be enjoyable. So it kind of sets up Yoga Girl in
Oh
its
my God.
in the Girl in the Lake simplicity sets up the next one, which you said it, and I agree. It's the best one in the whole movie. It's a good one.
It's almost the reason to see the movie.
Yeah, it's the one you're taking home, right? It's
Yeah.
the one you're gonna remember.
It is absolutely, I would say it is my favorite kill in a movie in a really long time. And I was talking to another friend of mine the other day, and he was like, "What are your favorite kills?" And I'm like, I don't know." And he's like, "What about the Omen glass truck?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, okay."
Yeah.
The original chest burster and Alien. This Yoga Girl gets that level of good for sure.
It's the part of it that really made me cringe the most was just that shot from above of her spine popping
Yes.
underneath the skin.
Yes.
That's the one that I went, "Ugh." After that, it gets, it gets clever, it gets creative, it gets, a little campy. Because, here she is doing yoga and getting all stretchy and bendy.
Yeah.
And then he ends up pulling her head through her own body
Yeah.
while it's still attached.
First
Yeah,
of all, it starts with a classic Jason type kill. Punches a hole through her.
Yeah.
With that fucking meat hook, with the fire hook or whatever the hell that is.
The drag hooks, I think.
And I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to break down how they did it. I'm like, okay, she has a makeup on her stomach with the hook coming through.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a
Yeah.
big appliance. They probably have a big appliance for the head as well. They obviously have a puppet dummy with a hole in it. When I asked my buddy, it's funny, I'm like, because I'm the king of prep, right? I didn't prep for this really until like an hour before we were getting ready to record. I text my buddy, I'm like, hey, I want to ask you some yoga girl questions. And he's like, I'm in the middle of doing makeup right now uh, on a movie. I'll have to tell you later. I think it would be a spoiler alert. I don't know that it's been talked about being done yet, but you're gonna love it. Anyway, he goes, I'm doing makeup on this movie right now. I'll talk to you later. But he quickly sends me a couple of photos, and one of them is obviously Yoga Girl standing there with the fucking big makeup hook coming through her chest. I'm like, great. So they did that. Then he spins her around, whips it out where that's obviously like a dummy, right? And then slams her in the head with the hook and then spins her back around. Now we're into full dummy land. And like you say, there's that overhead shot of the head being pulled down and the spine coming
Oh
up
yeah.
under the skin. Fuck, that was so good. The sound effects, so good.
Yep.
So fucking just demented. And I was like, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he just keeps pulling on that chain.
And yeah, you know where it's going by that point, and you watch that girl's face,
Yeah.
bloody and gooey emerge from the hole in the back.
Yeah.
But for me, once you get there, it's just like ridiculous and fun
Absolutely.
and shocking.
Yeah.
But that effect of seeing that spine go pop, 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 like just under the skin, just raise it up. And I think maybe it was just like a little bit discolored under there too.
Yeah.
That one really gave me the heebie-jeebies, like sucking the wind through my teeth.
Yeah. Did you make a noise? Because I went, oh
Sure,
shit.
sure. Yeah, you can't. It's really, really well done.
Yeah.
They crushed it. And for me, yeah, the high point of the movie, to be sure.
Absolutely. And second favorite, I'm gonna go Walkman Kid.
Oh, with the hacksaw or whatever that was? Yeah.
I don't
I
know if it's a saw or a wire or some kind of lumbery thing, but no, that was good. And that is a classic Friday the 13th type kill too. From behind the tree, coming around, killing the person standing next to the tree, and bisecting them in some way, right
yeah.
across the jaw. Well done.
And I had a good chuckle because I think he goes does he go yeah, he goes to the ranger station right after that,
Yeah.
and he's dragging the body and then just, like, the little top half of the head in his other hand,
Yeah.
which I was like, "Oh, that's a good little prop right there." Just, like, the top the top half.
This was also a great use of music because the movie doesn't have a score or
Yes.
music in it. And the
Yep.
Walkman kid is listening to a Walkman. And when he gets killed, it pops out. Now, not that a Walkman has a fucking speaker on it, but
Yeah.
this one did. Okay. So it's suddenly playing the music he was listening to loud and for while he's being killed. And then, as you say, it cuts to a couple of minutes later or however fucking long later as he's dragging the body somewhere and the battery is dying on the Walkman and the song is getting slower.
Yes.
And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, that's fucking creepy.
Yep.
And then they cut again and it's even slower.
Yeah. I do remember specifically, because time is such an element in this movie, as we've said
Yeah.
repeatedly, it goes so slow, that was a great way to give us a cut and show us the passage of time through, like, the battery dying on that Walkman. I too, I thought that was really well done. It
He
was
must have
memorable a
been
little bit.
using some fucking generic batteries because they went pretty quick.
Yeah, sure. Those were not Duracells. It's
No.
just something like Kirkland brand, maybe.
Yeah,
He had
he's
them in
totally
there.
Obviously using Kirkland brand batteries.
So,
Not that
some,
there's anything wrong with Kirkland.
yeah, we'll be accepting the Kirkland sponsorship
We are
if it's
totally
offered.
ready for the Costco Kirkland sponsorship.
Yeah, I need free packs of Puma socks and
I would like 40 cups of yogurt, please.
you take it easy on the yolk. I mean, you got to replace that microbiome in your gut after that Indian food. So
That is also
y-
true.
yogurt is
Oh, fuck
yeah,
that.
I did also notice it was the silliest thing, but he gets into that ranger station, and that's where he gets the mask. And I like that mask. I was like,
That
well, this
mask is
is
cool.
I was like, this is an interesting thing. I don't know that I've
Yeah.
ever seen this kind of old-timey firefighter's mask before, but it's certainly, you know, it certainly has the weight of something that could be iconic. You know, I don't think this movie is necessarily going to spawn 12 sequels like Friday the 13th did. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't have that kind of juice to it. But that mask is great. And when he's in the ranger station, kind of behind the glass,
Yeah.
I did notice, I was like, that's like a sliding glass window. You could just open that up. Nope. He throws the corpse into it
Yeah.
and breaks it. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
hey, you've come
You
this
know,
far, Johnny.
however you get there, Johnny. This is your world, babe.
Yeah. Puts that mask on and gets the hooks.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I love the mask. It's fucking cool. And I'm pretty sure they're already going to be doing a sequel. I
Huh?
will put this out there and say I want to work on it
Huh?
100%. I know it'll most likely be done in Canada, which means the chance for me working on it will be slim, but I will be talking to people and seeing if there's a way I can get my grubby mitts on a yoga girl style kill
Oh
for a
boy.
sequel.
Boy. That was such a good one. What did you think of his face? You know, it's like 48 minutes into the movie, I
Yeah.
think, is when you actually finally see his face, because you're following him from behind the whole time.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the makeup on the face there?
I mean, the first thing I thought was, "Hey, you guys!" And but then I was like, sort of examining it, and I love the dead contact lenses, because I don't know if
Yeah.
you noticed in Friday 6, his eyes are fine. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with Jason's eyes.
Well, when you can see him, most of the time they have them blacked out, but then,
Yeah.
when you can see them, they're totally fine.
Like that opening shot when the eye opens and there's the maggots and shit around. I'm like, well, that's just a dude with like brown eyes. He's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I did notice the contact lenses. I thought those were great. And then a little bit later in the movie, I was like, well, his cataracts certainly have not affected his aim with that hatchet, because he
Dude,
pegs a guy from like
man,
25 yards.
he is a fucking Olympic hatchet thrower. Absolutely. Yeah. Those are the moments where I'm like, okay, you're supposed to take a slow child here that is now a gigantic monster who stops at one moment to play with a toy.
Yeah.
And this is obviously when we're seeing his face because he takes the mask off. And he's got the car and he's rolling it around. I love the teeth. The teeth coming through the lips was
Yep.
cool. It was just, it's a big, beefy, obviously silicone makeup, and I liked it. It had good movement to it. He's getting some expression out of it. I was like, this is cool. I'm digging this. So I would say I definitely liked it.
Yeah. I dug it too. And then later, when he does kill that guy with the hatchet, um, I thought that was another neat shot. They did the overhead tracking shot. So, you see him throw the hatchet, and then he's walking, of course,
Yep.
slowly, and they're
Yep.
following him. And you just know eventually, and sure enough, there's the guy about, 10 seconds later into the walk, you see the guy dead with the hatchet in his face, and
Yeah.
Troy bleeding from his thigh.
Hmm.
Um,
Right before that is when this is another thing I called bullshit on. He's like,
the car.
walks up to the car
Yeah,
and sticks
totally.
the branch into the
Yeah.
horn. So it's like, And then like, okay, now I'm gonna run. He almost runs.
He
He hustles
almost runs.
around the
He
fucking
did.
cabin all the way to knowing they'll come back to the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
The
don't
timing of that one, you know, because you're right. He has a spring in his step right there, and then they follow him all the way around the cabin, which I thought, yeah, you can call bullshit on it, but I was like, you know, this is good. It's good little time. You know, it goes all the way around the cabin so that they have come out of the front door,
Yep.
and he can creep up behind them, and that to me, you know. We can call it bullshit, but that was also a nice little nod to the Friday the 13th thing. Like, how is Jason always behind these people? You know,
Yeah.
how is he always like, they look around one corner and they're like, ah, and then he's like, right there, right? This actually showed that moment kind of in practice. Is like, that's
Yeah.
what he did. He waited for them to come out the front door and then he comes up behind him. So even though I was like, I thought, and that's when I wrote down, I was like, Johnny was in the gifted and talented class of his, you know, the remedial classroom.
Absolutely.
Was like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna let that go because I saw a nod to Friday the 13th.
Yeah. I mean, this whole movie is nodding at Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
for sure. And that is part of why I liked it, why I enjoyed it. Because I would say that out of the slasher movies, it's kind of my favorite. You know, is that group of films?
The Friday the 13th movies?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, definitely a big fan. Loved 1, loved 2, 3 is funny, 6 obviously funny, 4 was my favorite until I watched 6, and then I thought 6 might be my favorite. So, yeah, no, they're great. But you know, getting back to this, we do that good digital head crush on the dude with the rock.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really,
And that was
really
Troy. Troy finally getting his comeuppance there, I think.
Troy. Yeah. Colt, is he the one that got the axe?
Oh man, that was a surprising kill.
Okay.
Colt wasn't the one that got the axe. Colt was the one, he was with her at the very end, right? And he's like, you know, you go to set up the trap. I'm gonna distract him. And then like she's
Yeah.
standing there with the gas can and you're waiting for a while, and then he shows up behind him and he's like, "Hey, I'm right over here, you son of a bitch." And the guy whips around and just fucking wastes
Pummels.
him. Yeah.
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 That
It
was
was like,
good.
why did you get so close?
Yeah.
You fucking idiot.
How close would you get to a bear in the woods if you knew it was going to kill you? Not very close. Yeah.
Yeah, like you could distract him from about 10 feet farther away, Colt. But
He is within touching distance.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He just gets blasted. So I was surprised by
Yeah.
that, and that's where, to bring it back, the girl's like, "I guess I'll take this locket off now."
Yeah.
My girl,
Yeah.
now.
Now is when you do that? They've
Yeah.
already mentioned this is the plot point. It was the only thing keeping his soul at bay.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
then
so
they
why are
say,
you still wearing it?
no, they're like, it doesn't make a difference now. He's awake. But you know what? She takes it off
Just
and
try.
we never see him again.
Yeah.
That's it. So apparently it worked. Apparently it worked.
Although it takes us 20 minutes to know that.
Yeah. Well, you get that. You get that monologue. You know, our final girl runs screaming through the forest.
Yeah, this is when
Um,
the POV shifts from Johnny POV
Yeah.
to final girl POV.
And truly, although we're with our heroine here, I guess, if she could be called that, that's the only time in the movie I was like, maybe I don't want to go to Northern Ontario, because she's just screaming through the dark woods, and it's so dark. And I've
Yeah.
been in the forest like that, and it can be a little creepy if you're not used to it. But yeah, then she makes it to the road. She gets picked up by that woman. That woman has that long monologue, brother or something getting mauled by the bear.
Yeah.
And
That's not a very comforting monologue, by the way. You just
no, I
picked
was
up
like,
somebody on the highway who's bleeding and scared and freaked out, and the first thing you're going to do is tell them a really long story about an animal attack. I
I
don't
know
know.
what I know what'll calm you down.
Oh, dearie, let me
Yeah.
tell you about the time my brother was mauled by a mad bear. And I'll be honest, the first time I watched this, I thought she was talking about a prior instance of Johnny
Yeah.
10 years ago.
I was waiting for some kind of
We all were.
reveal. Yeah, and then, you know, she stops the car because she's like, "I gotta take a look at that leg. You're bleeding." And the girl's like, "No, no, no, just go, just go, just go." And she stops the car, and then you're like, "All right, here he comes out of the forest."
Totally.
And I'm not disappointed that he didn't come out of the forest in
Neither
the
am
end.
I, because I sat there waiting and waiting,
Yeah.
just like at the lake.
Yep.
Like,
That's
I know it's
exactly it.
coming.
Right.
I know it's coming. And then
Yeah.
it doesn't. And that
Yeah.
feels fitting, right?
Yeah. Because you have that dread at the end that like just eventually we're waiting here, but eventually it's gonna happen. And nope.
Yeah.
That's
And
the end.
or you expect this woman
Yeah.
who, by the way, played by Lauren Marie Taylor, actually is a victim in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Bringing it all back home.
Hell yeah. And she played Vicky in Part 2. Vicky doesn't have the most interesting death. But I think she sees somebody else dead and no, and then like turns around and gets slashed in the leg, and then is an off camera kill. But yeah, she's Friday alumni.
Oh. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so apparent that like this guy that Chris Nash, the writer director, he really wanted to uh make that kind of movie, make it good, make it artistic, even in some ways sort of to me I thought explain some of the logic behind the lunacy. Um and he, certainly considered filmmaking,
Yeah.
like some beautiful shots, not afraid to take the time. Um, Ultimately, to me, though, it was less fun than Friday 6. And when I'm watching that kind of movie, I think, really I'm looking to have fun. I don't
Sure.
I
Sure.
got to give it to the guy for trying, and there's certainly a lot of good stuff to take away from In a Violent Nature, and that like we talked for at length about that yoga kill. It is fucking great. It's a great one. But ultimately, when I'm comparing the two, I like Friday 6 a little bit more than I had more fun. I'm not gonna say
Okay.
Friday the 13th Part 6 is a better movie than In a Violent Nature because in a lot of ways, I don't think it is. But, when you're looking at movies like this, sometimes you have to, you gotta take into account that sometimes it's so bad it's good, and it's a lot
How
of
many
fun.
drag hooks are you going to give in a violent nature? You gave Friday 6
7. I think
7.
I gave it 7. This one I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna go with 6.5 on this. Maybe
Oh,
even 6, maybe even 6.
okay.
They're close, but they're much different experiences. You're
Mhm.
comparing machetes to drag hooks, and it's just not the same.
Yes, I agree. You're comparing. That's perfect. Would you change the name of this movie to "In a Violent Nature" documentary?
Yeah, well, I was like, nature is like its own character in this movie.
Yeah,
I mean, you're constantly hearing the birds and the bugs and the leaves and the wind. You're really in the I mean, it is a little bit nature documentary feeling sometimes because with no
totally.
music and no
Mhm.
supporting sound to it, it puts you it really puts you I think the nature is very specifically titled for that reason.
Absolutely. And speaking of the flies, how about that fucking song at the end?
Oh, get the black fly picking at
Yeah,
my bones or whatever?
yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, that was like a whole thing with the crew where the black flies were so terrible that it just became like a thing, and that is why they have that song at the end.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's good tidbit right there.
little little insider information. Well, I liked this movie a little bit more than you. I'm going to go ahead and give it 7.5 drag hooks. So I liked
7.
it better than Friday 6, even though Friday 6 is more fun.
I mean, you can color me surprised that when I looked at both of those movies and was like, both of these that Friday 6 ended up being uh the winner for me.
Sure.
Um and like I said, that's nothing to take away from the efforts. And now that I know all that stuff about how much they had to reshoot, like, oh, my heart goes out to these guys. They really
Yeah.
had to get through a lot to get this picture made. Um,
And apparently, the budget was mostly gone by that point too. It's not like they were able to get their whole budget over again. They had to like scrimp and figure
yeah,
out
yeah,
and like cut and well done to get to this point. If you had to reshoot 70% of that movie and you still have something as dynamic as Yoga Girl and fucking Walkman Kid and the
yeah.
extremely voyeuristic log splitter.
Yeah. And I mean, like with an indie feature like this too, it's the second time around, somebody was like, okay, guys. So my great Aunt Mary has decided that she will put up some of the cash. So she's going to give us $20,000 for this. And great Aunt Mary is like 87 years old and got
Yeah,
invited to the premiere. And
yeah,
she's
yeah,
just like, what have I done?
yeah. She made spaghetti for the crew one day. Yeah,
Totally, totally. And they're like,
yeah,
she's just watching Yoga Girl getting her head pulled through her torso. It's like,
yeah.
your money
Totally.
made this happen. You made this happen, great Aunt Mary.
Thanks. Thank you. Oh, hell yeah.
Well, that was episode 1. How'd you think that went?
I think it went pretty well. I
For
mean,
first time out.
yeah, obviously we know how to talk to each other. And this reminds me very much of 80% of our phone calls.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. I'm sure there's things we can polish up, but there's nowhere to go but up. I always like to say the first pancake goes to the dog. Like,
This is a really good version of the first pancake. And yeah,
yeah,
the dog is fucking licking its chops right now.
yeah, but we got a giant stack of flapjacks waiting.
Oh, the flapjacks are coming, baby. Maxine, soon.
That's
We're
it,
going to try
Mac.
and do this every 2 weeks.
If you've got questions, comments, concerns, maybe a request of movies we should review or suggestions on movies we should punish each other with, you can send them to thewholedamnthing13@gmail.com. We'll do our best to check that email inbox and respond to people as soon as we can. Again, that's thewholedamnthing13@gmail.com.
Yeah, keep an eye out for the Patreon. That's a thing that's going to be happening. We're going to have our own Discord server where we can chat with us, chat with each other, suggest things, get to vote on things. We'll have things for people to vote on. We're also talking about doing live shows where we all watch something together.
We got big plans, people.
Big plans. Big
Big
plans.
plans. Huge. Astronomically big plans.
Yes.
So the first of many, and it only gets better from here. So thanks for tuning in.
What did Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert say?
They
Save
always
us
said
the
something
house.
like, save us a seat in the balcony. But after what Gene Siskel said about Friday the 13th, Part 6, I'm not sure I want to sit up there. Plus, he's ragging on Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, you know what? Gene Siskel can go fuck himself.
I think he's dead, Mike.
My apologies to the Siskel Foundation and family.
Seriously, if they're like reviewers who give other reviewers money and stuff, we meant no offense to Gene Siskel, titan of the industry.
Exactly. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert both have our massive amounts of respect. Thank you for listening.
The head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
And that concludes episode 1. See you in 2 weeks when the boys review Carrie and Maxine. I'm not sure why they're picking on Gene Siskel. I mean, Smokey and the Bandit 1 and 2 were pretty good films. I mean, 3 was a dumpster fire, but they can't all be gems. I like the sound of that. They can't all be gems. I think I'm going to start a podcast. Next week on They All Can't Be Gems, I review the cartoon Gem. No, never mind.